I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
Marriage is the best. Hey, welcome back. We're glad you are tuning in today. Today we're going to be talking about the fourth phase of marriage. Now, technically, it's the sixth phase that we've talked about so far. So far, we've talked about the first stage, which is that early honeymoon stage full of life and beauty and tension and love. We've talked about the second stage, which is a disillusionment, and how relationships run into reality, how the facade kind of wears out, and eventually we're forced to recognize the reality of the person that we chose. We talked about phase 3 and how we enter into teamwork phase, where the disillusionment is kind of faded away, and we're tasked with engaging in life and responsibilities and doing it well and doing it together. And we are now talking about the renegotiation phase. Teamwork phase often occurs in the marital development during children and child rearing years. Now, obviously, not everybody is blessed with that. But typically the teamwork phase is very, child rearing heavy. Renegotiation oftentimes is occurring when a lot of those demands of the children are kind of winding down. Essentially, you've gotten to the point where you have successfully moved through the raising of your kids, and now you're in a season where there's just a lot of change. There's a lot of adjusting to do. So you have to kind of redefine and renegotiate what the relationship is going to look like. Negotiation, or to negotiate, is to discuss something formally in order to reach an agreement. So 3 kind of primary words there. Discuss. Obviously, we're going to be talking about and negotiating in this season. It's formal. And in this kind of context, formal works really well because I think when I say formal, what I really mean is intentional. So we're intentionally discussing something in order to reach an agreement. And then the agreement part is really important here. Because if you don't agree on kind of where you're going and you don't kind of come to a place of agreement, the negotiations fail. They break down. And all of a sudden, those negotiations will lead to bad places, lead to either a lack of intimacy or a lack of closeness, because you were not able to intentionally discuss and come to an agreement about kind of what's next for you guys. And essentially, it gets to a place where a lot of people actually end up ending their marriages. So I was doing some research on kind of the season of marriage, these later years, and I found some interesting things that I wanted to share with you guys. So divorce rates are actually currently at their lowest in about 50 years, which is really cool. That's out of a Pew Research Center study that found that currently around 14.4 divorces per 1,000 married women. And in the early 1980s, there was 22.8, which is where it peaked. So there is less divorce, but there's also quite a bit less marriage going on in our current culture. The gray divorce rate, so people divorcing after 50, has doubled since the 1990s. And for those 65 and older, the divorce rates have nearly tripled than the levels in the 1990s. Now, obviously, the culture has shifted a lot, and the conversations around divorce and divorce just being an acceptable thing has changed drastically. And, whenever we talk about divorce, one of the things that I always like to say and to remind people is that not all divorce is bad. there are lots of instances where couples have stuck together for a very long time. They've stuck together through harmful dynamics, right? Like really, really harmful dynamics. Not like a suck it up buttercup kind of dynamics, but like really serious harm being done from one person to another. They stuck it out for a very long time, and they've found that they're sick of dealing with that, or they just can't take it anymore. They've reached a limit of some sort, and they decide that that's enough, and they're done. Obviously, each specific case needs to be adjudicated appropriately and thought out, within the context of the relationship and the family, and the support levels and all of those things, right? Like that is up to the individual to decide. But the idea is that we should never aim for a 0% divorce rate, because not 0% of marriages are undivorceable, which is probably the worst way of saying that. A better way to say that would be that there's a lot of marriages out there that really ought to end in divorce due to the harm that exists within the relationship. And so we want to keep that in mind as we're looking at these. Also, as I'm talking this through, the like doubling from the 1990s and tripling for the 65 and older, those numbers were probably really low in the 90s. And so I'm imagining that it's probably not a ridiculously high number. But one thing that the Pew Research Center did find is that 40% of divorces occur within the first decade of marriage. Okay. So if you've made it past the first decade, 40%, you've reduced your divorce rate by a lot. That's not how it works, but that's good that you're moving through that. Good. Around 22% of divorce actually happens after 25 years, which is a lot. A fifth of divorces, a little over a fifth of divorces actually occur after 25 years. Now, that 25 years is enough to raise 4 kids. You have them over the course of 7 years, and then, you raise them for 18, and now you're getting to the end of that 25, 26, 27, 28. And you're entering into the renegotiation phase of marriage. So it's a new phase, and there's a lot of newness in it. And the first and foremost, if you find yourself in the renegotiation phase, if you've been married for 25 plus years and you're, the age that you are, and you've done all this work, one thing I want to say is that you have worked really hard for a really long season, and you deserve a congratulations. You deserve plaudits for the work that you did, for sticking it out, for working really diligently, for not, hitting the easy button and an escape button, and for living with the person that you live with for this amount of time. So good for you. Good for you. I'm sure they're wonderful, but really and truly, the relationships that make it this far have worked really hard to get there. And I don't want to minimize any of the work that had been done to move through honeymoon and disillusionment and teamwork, to be disrupted by the children. And hopefully you've used some ultimate, you've created some ultimate dynamics in your relationship by creating sustainability. The ultimate marriage is the marriage that lasts. It's the sustainable one. And so hopefully you've done some things that have sustained it. Obviously you got this far, which is pretty awesome. And you deserve a pat on the back. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So people are entering into this renegotiation stage, right? And the children are leaving. The demand of the children is gone. And I know that most of you probably can't even imagine getting to a place where the demand of your children is no longer there. And I have to give you the cold hard truth. That's coming. It's coming. Like parenting is really a seasonal thing. It's not something that you do forever. It's not something that looks the same even for that long. And, when you have 6 children and you're in your 6th infancy and doing all of that again, it does feel like forever. It does feel like a very long time. Bedtimes can actually feel like an eternity, in fact. But in reality, children and raising children is only a short season in our lives. Becca and I will raise kids for about 28 years. And when we finish at 52, when we finish at 51, we on average will actually have 30, I think it's like 25 more years of marriage. So we're going to have just like a ridiculous amount of marriage to live after the teamwork phase, after, we finish raising our kids. We're going to have a large amount of our marriage to still live. And we're going to need to renegotiate. I've been thinking about this a lot. I've actually brought up a bunch of questions recently that don't make a whole lot of sense in our season, because I've been asking her like, hey, what do you think you want to do in 18 years when number 6 is going to graduate? What do you like? We should plan for that. In 16 years when she doesn't really need you. I mean, obviously she's going to need her mom, but in 16 years when things have changed, what do you want? Do you want your master's? Do you want to go do some counseling? Do you want to do you like her doing the counseling? I mean, she could go to counseling if she wants to, but the question was aimed at the other interpretation of that. So it seems kind of inappropriate in some ways to be asking those questions, but I've been thinking a lot about this renegotiation phase, and I've been wanting to kind of set us up for success in that, to discuss something intentionally and formally in order to reach an agreement. I want to have those discussions on an ongoing basis so that we can reach agreements about what does it look like to create shared meaning when our children are gone. If I've got the podcast and maybe I've written some words down on a paper and tried to pawn it off on people, and I've got counseling and I've got my male friends and I've got my mentors, I've got all of this fullness and all of these good things that I will continue to want. And then new things that I don't even know. I want her to have equal, if not more, things on her plate that she is excited about, that she wants more than anything, that she wants to pour herself into. And I don't want to lose her, and I don't want her to lose herself in this season of parenting. I want her to work really diligently and take responsibility for what we've done and how we've created this beautiful family. But I don't want her to come to a place where this is all that she wants in her life and that she hasn't thought about what does it look like for her to kind of move into the next season, because it's coming, and it's hard to see, but it's coming. Children make up a huge part of this adjustment, because so much of the need that kids have for our input and our love and our acceptance, for our encouragement and our coaching and all of the phases of parenting. Maybe we'll talk about phases of parenting in the future. But so much of our lives are caught up in, loving and cherishing and building and feeding and wiping and getting these kids to a place where they can take care of themselves and be successful adults. And when that's gone, I think it actually it is a hugely significant shift for especially moms to make. Moms tend to bear the brunt of nurturing because of the way that they're wired and gifted. That's just like a pretty broad generalization, but that is how it goes. And in their nurturing and in their care for their kids, so much of themselves is caught up in that. And that's a good thing. It's good that moms are focused and engaged in that. And what I'm thinking is we want to balance that out, that passion and that love and that nurturing and all of the roles that they're playing, with them being able to be individuals. And so some of the things that we allow, like some of the things that we prioritize for Becca is like time for her. Like how does she spend time for her? Early on in our marriage, she was really bad at it, extremely awful at it. And I had to kind of hound her to get out and do things for herself, such as anyways. such as reaching out and hanging out with friends, or going and getting apps with people, or going out with her sister and chatting and hanging out. And every time she does, it's a huge blessing to her. And it's a blessing to me that it's a blessing to her. And she's able to just like be herself. Can she be herself while also raising children? Yes, that's a part of her, but it's a part. It's not the whole thing. And so she needs time to express herself outside of the context of little people who desperately need and want and love and think she's the world. Number 5 was just like reminding her today that she is his mother, and it was very sweet. And he cherishes, he loves, he is so secure in his connection with his mom because she works really hard at the connection between the two of them. And obviously she loves him very much. So I think along the way, throughout the first 3 stages of marriage, I think it's important for me to encourage Rebecca to be herself and to want things and to go after things and to schedule things and to make time for that. Because if we fall into kind of a pattern where she isn't doing that, I think that makes the renegotiation phase a little bit more difficult because the children are gone and she may be left with a lack of sense of self. And in that lack, it can come out in all sorts of different ways. And I've seen it in counseling come out a myriad of different ways. And oftentimes people trying to renegotiate in this season find it really difficult to kind of find a way to dialogue, to discuss, to engage in these hard conversations, because especially when those conversations have not been an ongoing part of the relationship, and especially when the individuality of each of the parents hasn't been able to be expressed or explored along the way for whatever reason. And so the accounts can have run really low. If your account runs really low and you didn't manage it, along the way, if you weren't ultimate in your honeymoon and ultimate in your disillusionment and ultimate in your teamwork, if you did not ultimately adjust to the disruption of children, then ultimate renegotiation, sustainable renegotiation makes it very difficult. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say ultimate in these phases, essentially it's just another term for sustainability throughout all of marriage. And you should check out our other episode talking about the ultimate phase. So these accounts may have gotten pretty low, the account of the relationship, because of investments. A lot of the investments is going elsewhere, right? Managing the household, that's an investment. Managing, a church relationship, managing volunteering, managing money, managing work, managing kids. So you're managing all these things, right? Not just children, but lots of other things as well. And now, all of a sudden, if marriage was not prioritized, which we talked about just last week, if it's not prioritized and it's not full, then the marriage becomes something that is very difficult to fill back up. We got to fill it back up, fill the cup, fill the account. And depending on how low it got, you may need certain courses of action in order to go, to get from where you want, or from where you are to where you want to be. So coming into counseling, coming and seeing me at the good old spot, the counseling care spot, writing in, you could write in questions or whatever on the email thing. That would be good. Reading books, but there's just work to be done, right? To fill the cup back up, there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of conversations to have. We have to redefine and renegotiate our roles. We have to redefine and renegotiate our finances. We have to redefine and renegotiate so many things. And so one way to kind of prepare yourself for renegotiating is to keep that account really full so that you have a lot that you can draw on in the relationship so that those conversations go well. And if you do that really well, then you're going to more smoothly enter into and move through the renegotiation. It's not going to be seamless and it's not going to be like easy, right? But you'll be able to move through it and you'll do it well. Here's one of the cool things. Okay. In my research, I actually found that a lot of people, especially women, actually report that in this season of marriage, when the children are leaving, that actually correlates with a higher rate of marital closeness. So marriage might be really strong in the early part where the honeymoon and the like early parenting and you're working really hard. It gets a little bit like marital satisfaction. It gets a little bit lower in the middle years, childbearing and rearing and all of that and the stress and, you're early in your financial world, you're early in all of these different things, trying to figure all these things out. And then it ticks back up after children leave because all of a sudden couples can focus more on each other and they don't have so many demands on their time and effort. So the joy, the hope, the really cool part of the renegotiation phase is that a lot of people actually report that marriage and marital satisfaction actually can increase in this season, in this phase. And that is cool. Disillusionment can be a grind. Teamwork can be a grind. Disillusionment is where that like 40% of divorces live, right? Not in the honeymoon phase, but in that disillusionment phase as the honeymoon glaze wears off. Teamwork is a grind, right? And the renegotiation phase is actually a really beautiful thing because there's freedom to connect. There's less demands, most likely, unless you've artificially created tons and tons of demands, which would need to be renegotiated, in fact, in this season. And there's just a lot of beauty. There's a lot of beauty in it. And I get excited for people who get this far. I really do. I get excited when I get to talk to people who've been married for this long. And I've had many chances to talk to and work with people who have been married again and are kind of entering into this season of their lives. It's a beautiful thing. And protecting this thing, this investment that you've made, this marital account that you've created with this special person, this beautiful person, this flawed person, is always worth it. As long as there's not abuse or harm going on, it is always worth it. So new dreams. You've got this opportunity to make the best, season of your marriage, this season, the renegotiation season, and the seasons that come thereafter. And so you need new dreams. You need to join in with each other. You need to redefine a little bit of yourself, that part of you that was fully demanded by the kids or the other parts of the other seasons. You need to spend some time and redefine yourself a little bit, understanding yourself and knowing yourself and looking at what you want in the future, looking at your responsibilities that you want to take on, looking at, what kind of life you want to build with this partner that you have. And it can be a really beautiful thing. And so my hope is that for you in a renegotiation phase, that you would be able to move through and renegotiate and kind of fall in love again and cherish and join with this person. We have an awesome couple that we very much appreciate. One of the things that Becca and I noticed, and let's just say that Becca noticed it. Let's give credit where credit is due. Let's say that Becca noticed that this couple, who is kind of beyond their renegotiation phase, they've renegotiated and they're doing really well. They join in with what the other person does, even if they don't necessarily value it at the same level. So Becca was painting, and one of her mentor, kind of really a close lady relationship, she decided that she was either asked or decided that she was going to come and help paint our living room. And it was a huge blessing to have them come over. But not only did this lady friend come over, but her husband joined with her, even though this isn't his relationship and it's not his passion and it's not his service, but he joined with his wife and showed up for her. And this important thing, obviously it was important enough for her. And they both showed up and they both worked together and they made it work. And Becca has heard other stories of how these people see each other's values and see each other's what's important to them, right? See each other's goals and orientation and like where they want to be and what they want to be doing and their dreams. And they honor each other in their dreams. And I think that that's kind of the ultimate goal, because it's a sustainable thing. When you can see your partner's dream and you can join with them in that, and you can balance yourself within that, right? Both parties. So the husband is balancing his wife's dreams and joining with her in that, and maybe even joining her in those dreams in a certain way, right? Finding a way to join with her in that. And the wife does the same thing. The wife joins with the husband, sees his dreams, involves herself in it, encourages and loves and joins him and joins him in doing those things. Because ultimately what you don't want is to have separate dreams that you live out separately that just kind of drive a wedge and make you guys feel kind of further and further apart over time. Really and truly, you want to have some individuality, but also a shared, beautiful dream, something that you guys are both working on and joining in. Even if, her dream isn't your favorite, even if his dream isn't your favorite, within reason, joining with those dreams and finding a way for each of you to dialogue and discuss, how do we come to an agreement, a formal and intentional agreement to negotiate this phase so that we can stay sustainable in this latter part of our life, that we would have that U-shaped, beautiful kind of marital involvement and marital satisfaction curve, and that we would make this phase, this final phase, this kind of end of life phase, end of children rearing phase, one of the best phases that we can have in our marriage. It's really the cherry on top, if you like the cherry on top, which a lot of people don't. So maybe we should come up with a different kind of phrase, but it's that kind of final like icing on the cake that I don't like icing, whatever it might be on top of the thing that is good. This might be it. This final kind of hurrah, this beautiful kind of end of the tale. And the work that you put in during the other phases of the relationship really cultivate or really kind of come to fruition in this final phase. And you can have a really beautiful, really meaningful, really intimate final phase of your relationship. We've had a lot of fun talking about phases. We did get an email recently from one of our lovely listeners, and it's something that I really want to chew on. So I'm not going to actually jump into answering this specific email. So if you know who you are and you have emailed in, I just wanted to let you know that we have been thinking and talking amongst ourselves about your question, and we would love to kind of get back to you on that as soon as we can. It's something that really needs to be honored and chewed through a significant amount. And so Becca and I have had a couple conversations about it, but we're going to definitely have some more, and we will get back to you on your email. So we do really appreciate those emails. Feel free to send us one. If you want to interact with us other ways, you can also subscribe. You can also leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, all of those good things. If you get a moment, if you get a chance, feel free to do that. Also, you can share it. We don't do a whole lot of sharing because I'm not on social media and I don't really like social media. So if I don't share it, maybe you could. If you have social media, go ahead and throw it up there and tell people that you like it, and maybe they will like it as well. If you know someone in the renegotiation phase, maybe give them a pat on the back and tell them that they did a good job getting those kids raised and entering into this season. So that is all we have for you today. We hope that you have an amazing day, and this is definitely the end. Because otherwise I'll start to ramble, and it never goes well when I ramble. I just, I don't know what to say, and I say weird things, and it comes out wrong, and then we find ourselves here, right? 15 seconds after what we were supposed to be, and then it's does anyone even want to be here? Truly, this is the end.
And I got all I need, and I got everything.